It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Your body is exhausted. Your eyes are begging you to sleep, but your brain has other plans. For some reason, it decides that right now is the perfect time to replay a conversation from 3 years ago. You remember that awkward joke, that interview you didn't get, that text message you probably shouldn't have sent, or maybe the one you never sent at all. You already know none of it matters anymore. So why can't you stop thinking about it? Here's the strange part. The harder you try to force those thoughts away, the louder they seem to become. It's almost as if your own brain is working against you. Most people blame themselves for this. They think they're anxious, weak, broken, or simply an overthinker. But what if every one of those explanations is wrong? What if overthinking isn't a flaw in your personality, but a feature your brain has been running for hundreds of thousands of years? Because the truth is, your brain wasn't designed to make you happy. It was designed to keep you alive. And those are two very different goals. The problem is that the world your brain was built for no longer exists. Yet your brain is still playing by the old rules. It's like trying to run ancient software on a modern supercomputer. The hardware is incredible, but the programming is outdated. And that's where the real mystery begins. Because overthinking isn't actually about thinking too much. It's about getting trapped inside the same thought over and over and over again. Psychologists have a name for this. They call it rumination. And surprisingly, your brain often mistakes rumination for progress. It believes that if it just thinks a little longer, analyzes one more possibility, replays the memory one more time, it will finally find the answer. But instead, something unexpected happens. The loop gets stronger, the anxiety grows louder, and the solution seems even farther away. So the real question isn't, why do you think so much? The real question is, why does your brain refuse to let certain thoughts go? And to answer that, we have to travel back to a world where overthinking wasn't a problem. It was one of humanity's greatest survival tools. Imagine you're walking through a dense forest, not today, but 50,000 years ago. Every sound matters. Every shadow could be a predator. Every decision could mean the difference between living and dying. In that world, the person who constantly asked, "What if something goes wrong?" had a much better chance of surviving than the person who assumed everything was fine. Evolution rewarded caution. It rewarded people who noticed danger before anyone else, who imagined the worst-case scenario, who prepared for problems that hadn't happened yet. Generation after generation, that ability was passed on, and eventually, it became part of you. Your brain evolved into one of the greatest prediction machines on Earth. Long before something happens, it tries to simulate every possible outcome. Most of the time, that's incredibly useful. It helps you avoid mistakes, plan ahead, learn from experience, and stay safe. But here's where everything changed. Your brain still thinks it's living in that ancient forest. The predators disappeared. The forests became cities. The dangers became deadlines, unread messages, job interviews, and social media notifications. But your prediction system never received the update. Today, instead of asking, "Is that animal dangerous?" your brain asks, "What if they secretly hate me? What if I made the wrong decision? What if I fail? What if something bad happens tomorrow?" The survival software stayed exactly the same. Only the threats changed. And here's the trap. Unlike a lion hiding in the bushes, modern problems rarely have a clear ending. There's always one more possibility to consider, one more outcome to imagine, one more conversation to replay. Your brain believes it's protecting you, but without realizing it, it starts chasing certainty in a world where certainty doesn't exist. And that's exactly why overthinking feels impossible to stop, because your brain isn't searching for answers. It's searching for certainty. And certainty is something the modern world almost never gives you, which raises an even bigger question. If your brain knows uncertainty is unavoidable, why does it keep pulling you back into the same endless thought loops? The answer lies inside a hidden network, buried deep within your brain, one that scientists didn't even discover until surprisingly recently. For a long time, scientists believed something strange. They assumed that when you stopped focusing on a task, your brain simply became quiet. It seemed logical. If you're not solving a problem, not reading, not working, surely your brain must be resting. But then, brain scanners revealed something completely unexpected. Your brain never really switches off. In fact, the moment your attention drifts away from the outside world, an entirely different system comes to life. Scientists call it the default mode network. Think of it as your brain's autopilot whenever you're taking a shower, lying in bed, driving a familiar route, or simply staring out the window. This hidden network quietly takes control. And what does it do? It starts thinking about you, your memories, your future, your relationships, your mistakes, your goals. It connects pieces of your life like an editor trying to turn thousands of random moments into one continuous story. Most of the time, that's incredibly useful. It's how you learn from experience, imagine the future, understand other people, and even come up with creative ideas. Without the default mode network, you probably wouldn't have imagination at all. So if this network is so important, why does it make so many people miserable? Because it has one weakness. It doesn't know the difference between reflection and rumination. Reflection asks, what can I learn from this? Rumination asks, what if I keep replaying it one more time? One helps you move forward. The other keeps you trapped in the past. And the scary part is, your brain often can't tell the difference. Every time you replay the same conversation, reimagine the same mistake, or predict the same future disaster, the default mode network believes it's still doing useful work. It keeps searching for an answer that doesn't exist, like a search engine refreshing the same page, again and again and again. Meanwhile, another part of your brain begins reacting. The amygdala, your brain's ancient alarm system. It doesn't care whether the danger is real or simply imagined. If your thoughts feel threatening, the amygdala responds as if they are. Your heart beats faster. Stress hormones begin to rise. Your body prepares for action. But there's nothing to fight, nothing to run from, only thoughts. So your logical brain tries even harder to solve the problem with more thinking. And without realizing it, you've just created a perfect loop. Thoughts create stress. Stress creates more thoughts. And more thoughts create even more stress. It's like running on a treadmill that promises you'll eventually arrive somewhere, but every step leaves you exactly where you started, which explains something almost everyone has experienced. Why does your mind suddenly become the loudest? The very moment you lie down to sleep? Because when the outside world finally becomes quiet, your brain finally gets a chance to speak. And sometimes it never wants to stop. But there's another hidden force making this loop even stronger. A force that doesn't just influence your thoughts. It influences what your brain considers rewarding. And once you understand that chemical system, overthinking starts making even more sense. At this point, you might be wondering, if overthinking makes us anxious, why doesn't the brain simply stop doing it? The answer is surprisingly strange, because your brain often mistakes thinking for progress. Imagine you're worried about tomorrow's job interview. You start imagining every possible question, then every possible mistake, then every possible outcome. It feels exhausting, but oddly enough, it also feels like you're preparing, like you're getting somewhere, even when you're not. That's because your brain has learned a dangerous illusion. It believes that as long as you're thinking, you're doing something useful. Psychologists sometimes call this the productivity trap. Thinking feels like action, but it isn't. Real action changes the world. Overthinking only changes the movie playing inside your head. And the more uncertain the situation becomes, the stronger that illusion grows. Your brain hates uncertainty. In fact, many researchers believe the brain finds uncertainty even more uncomfortable than bad news. Think about waiting for medical test results, waiting to hear back after a job interview, or staring at a text message that says, "Seen, nothing terrible has happened." Yet, your mind starts filling in the blanks. Maybe they didn't like me. Maybe I ruined everything. Maybe something's wrong. The brain would rather invent an answer than accept not having one, because uncertainty leaves the survival system unfinished. It's like opening dozens of tabs on your computer and never closing any of them. Every unfinished question keeps running quietly in the background, draining your mental energy. That's why overthinking is so exhausting, not because thinking is hard, but because your brain keeps trying to finish problems that can't be solved with more thinking. And then something else happens. The more often you respond to uncertainty by overthinking, the more automatic that response becomes. Just like checking your phone without realizing it, or taking the same route home every day, your brain builds a habit. Eventually, the moment uncertainty appears, the loop starts automatically. No conscious decision, no permission, just an old survival program doing exactly what it was designed to do. And that's the twist almost nobody realizes. Overthinking isn't proof that you're weak. It's proof that your brain is trying to protect you, using rules that made perfect sense thousands of years ago. But here's the problem. The modern world is filled with questions that have no immediate answers. No amount of replaying a conversation, refreshing your inbox, or imagining every possible future will ever create certainty. So if thinking isn't the way out, what is? Surprisingly, the answer isn't hidden inside your thoughts at all. It's hidden inside your actions. And once scientists discovered why, it completely changed the way psychologists think about overthinking. So, if your brain is wired to overthink, does that mean you're stuck with it forever? Not at all, because the goal was never to stop your brain from thinking. The goal is to stop asking it to solve problems that only action can solve. Researchers have discovered something fascinating. The brain treats unresolved problems like open tabs in a web browser. Each unfinished task, each unanswered question, each decision you keep postponing remains active in the background. Psychologists sometimes call these open loops. Your brain keeps returning to them because, from its perspective, the job isn't finished. It isn't trying to annoy you. It's trying to remind you. But here's the mistake most people make. They believe they need to think their way out of the loop. In reality, the fastest way to close many mental loops isn't more thinking. It's movement. Not because movement magically fixes every problem, but because action gives your brain new information. Imagine you're afraid of sending an important email. You can spend 3 hours imagining every possible outcome, or you can press send. The moment you do, your brain finally has something real to work with. Reality replaces imagination. Progress replaces prediction. The same thing happens with difficult conversations, big decisions, starting a business, going to the gym, studying for an exam. The longer you wait, the more your brain fills the silence with imaginary possibilities. But once you take the first step, the loop begins to weaken. That's why motivation is so misunderstood. Most people believe motivation comes first, then action. Science often shows the opposite. Action comes first. Motivation follows, because every small action sends your brain a powerful message. The threat is being handled. And suddenly, the alarm doesn't need to stay on. None of this means you'll never overthink again. You will. Everyone does. Even psychologists, even neuroscientists, even the people who understand exactly how the brain works. The difference is that they recognize the loop sooner. They stop treating every thought like a fact, and they stop confusing endless analysis with real progress. Maybe that's the biggest lesson of all. Your brain isn't broken. It isn't lazy. It isn't trying to sabotage your future. It's doing exactly what evolution designed it to do: protect you. The problem is, it was designed for a world that no longer exists. And once you understand that, something incredible happens. You stop fighting your own mind. You start working with it, because the voice inside your head isn't your enemy. It's an ancient survival system, doing its best with an outdated map. The real power doesn't come from silencing that voice. It comes from knowing when to thank it and keep walking anyway. Because your future won't be built by the thoughts that keep you awake at night. It will be built by the actions you choose the next morning. So the next time your mind starts replaying the past or predicting a future that hasn't happened, remember this: you don't have to win every argument inside your head. You only have to take one step in the real world. Sometimes that's enough to change everything. If you enjoyed exploring the hidden psychology behind your own mind, subscribe to Body Loop Official.